All right, what's good, guys? So we're on day, it's been like a week of quarantining and social distancing and all that stuff. And it's getting kind of old, to be honest with you. It kind of sucks. And I feel like I was running out of stuff to do. So I've been just kind of like working on random little projects here and there, getting different parts ready. And I'll just show you some of the things that I've done over the last couple days. So these are my original steering knuckles that I had on the car, just the stock knuckles when I first went all-wheel drive. These aren't the modified ones. This guy right here is one of the modified knuckles. It was shortened 3/4 of an inch right there. And these are the ones that we're gonna be shorting 1.5 inches. So what I did is I kind of just prepped them. I ground off all the paint and got it all cleaned up. So they are ready to be cut, re-welded. And I've been working on my tie rod solution. I know you guys mentioned in the comments after the last video, you were interested in seeing what I do for tie rods. And this Heim joint has something to do with it. I ordered the inner tie rods that I will be running from Rock Auto. So they should be here like Tuesday or Wednesday. And then I have these Heim ends. I'm going to be ordering different ones. I'm just kind of using these to just as a reference because I had them laying around for some control arms I made on the V. And I was just measuring up sizes, and basically like this hole tapers. It's small. It's a smaller inner diameter here as it is back here, but this is 5/8 of an inch. This is 5/8 of an inch, and that will ultimately be the same size bolt. So we can drill this out to be 5/8 all the way through. And basically I will have a Heim end that I can space down for bump steer correction to get the tie rod parallel with the lower control arm, which is ultimately kind of what you want. So yeah, these guys, there'll be more coming with these soon. I painted the top hats to my coilovers so that they would look better in the engine bay. I did the bottom piece as well. And then let's go over to the car here. This was a little random idea that I thought of. I don't have interior lights in the car, so I can't see in the car at night when I'm like getting in and out or trying to find stuff. So I had this old LED pod fog light laying around. I bolted it to the floor right there to a pre-existing hole. And I had a wire lead that was for my old reverse lights because I would, like on the switch panel there, I would kick the reverse lights on because this was an automatic car. It didn't have the right switch and all that jazz. So when I did the tube rear, I didn't send the wire through. So it was just chilling back here. So I wired it up to this LED spotlight, and now it shines up to the ceiling and lights up, just glows the interior enough that at night I can see in here and see what I need to do. So that beat up fog light is now in here. I got some RTV. Now the heavy stuff, that's like seam sealer from last year, but I got some RTV and I ran a bead down the bottom of the firewall just to seal that off from the weather. I'm going to do some more sealing around there. As you can see, it's not sealed the best, but I'm going to do some more sealing up there. I also put some new weather strip across the top to seal against the window because the old one was starting to tear and was getting stuck to the glass. So I just want to kind of get this firewall boxed in better and sealed up better, just for noise and water and just general dirt purposes. So then under the hood, actually, before I continue on, got the new Stansco Street Club hooded windbreakers here. We did a pre-order on the site, on the Instagram, and we'll be doing more apparel with this as well. And it has the Stansco Street Club logo right there. And then, I don't know if I can do this, on the back, it's upside down. It has the whole Good Times, Bad Decisions logo and all that. So follow us on Instagram, because if you missed out on these jackets, they're awesome. We only did a pre-order, but follow us on Instagram. We're gonna be doing t-shirts and stuff like that with these logos and all that to try and keep this program rolling out here. So under the hood, I'm going to work on something today that I kind of came up with. I've been watching Adam LZ's 1J E36 videos, and it kind of gave me the idea when I saw them mount the oil cooler to the like left side on the crash beam, and then they cut some holes in the bumper for airflow through it, and they also mounted a little fan on the backside. So my oil cooler right now is up in there, and it actually gets like it's not even like lined up with the opening of the bumper. The only airflow it gets is whatever the fan can pull through it. So I was thinking, and if you look down there, there's probably about 2 inches of space between the oil cooler and the rad, which is good. Like, you don't want them to be butted up against each other, because you'll just run into like some heat issues. But what I'm going to try and do is my fog lights, that one, the bracket's broken, that one is shattered. As much as I want to keep these fog lights, I don't think I'm going to. So I'm going to pull the bumper off. I'm going to remove my fog lights and see if I can move my oil cooler to be in front of where that fog light opening is on the driver's side. And then I will ultimately order an 8-inch cooling fan that I can have behind the oil cooler. So when I'm sitting on grid and the car is like warm and idling, I can have that fan on, be pulling air through the oil cooler to keep the oil cool. 6G72s are notorious for spinning bearings, and you want to keep your oil, you want to keep good oil in the car at all times. I'm a little anal and I do an oil change just about before every event, but you want to keep good oil in these things. You want to make sure there's plenty of oil. Your oil pan isn't crushed up against the pickup tube, but you also want to keep your oil cool. So the VR4 set factory oil coolers, because the oil is running through the turbos and things like that. So when you do these bigger, this is the CX Racing kit, and I'll show you why I don't like it, but I'll also show you why I do like it. But when you do these, they will help drop oil temps and all that. But having a bigger oil cooler gives you more oil capacity, which helps it ultimately stay cooler because you have more oil to kind of absorb heat. You know what I mean? But I want to try and keep the oil in this car cool at all times. I don't have an oil temp gauge in it. That's why I have a slot on my triple gauge cluster there that's empty. I've been meaning to get an oil temp gauge, but my oil pressures are always spot on where they need to be. So yeah, so I'm gonna see if I can move that today, and I'll go about ordering a fan and finish that up. Because what I was noticing was when I was driving on the highway with this car, the temps would actually climb when I was just cruising, because what was happening is I didn't have ducting, and when the air would come in, it would kind of create like an air pocket in the bumper up here, and it wasn't allowing air to direct through the rad. So it just wasn't really working very well. Ooh, I re-zip tied these. Sick. So you guys can see here, this is the ducting that I was talking about. It is just self-tapered into the crash beam here, and then comes up to the top, like to the rad support here, and it allows air to come in through the bumper and then be directed up across the rad. But I only have it go over to here because I had the oil cooler here, and it just didn't really fit all together. And my oil cooler mount kind of sucks. As you can see, the top is loose. So we're gonna get that fixed up today. So ignore this wiring, because this is what's going to be going. This wire, these wires, that fog light that I just showed you guys in the back of the car, these wires used to be attached to it. So this positive lead right here kicks on the wires. This positive lead that I have chilling that used to be for fog lights is going to be the new positive lead for a cooling fan for my oil cooler. So it looks like my end lines are leaking a little bit here, just seeping. So I'll have to clean those up. But the CX Racing mount, it has this guy. Let me grab some cutters. It came with this weird bracket here, and that self-tapper was tight at one point. But yeah, that. And then it came with like that, which I had to use a piece of the horn bracket to mount there, and it's really not the best. And then there's nothing up top. So yeah, the whole bracket system the CX Racing gives you with these coolers does not make any sense at all. But I do, I like the cooler. It functions well, and all that. So what I'm going to do is take this duct off, take the fog lights off, which this one is almost there, and the cracked guy right here, and see about where I can mount this. Shroud out. So lower this guy down. I'll get some brake clean and spray these lines off as well. I'm thinking, just off the top of my head here, I'll probably just literally rotate it this way. I don't know, because that makes the lines hang down low. I might have underestimated the height of this thing. So I hit a bit of a snag, and now I'm just looking around to see if I have any cutting wheels, because if I don't, then I'm gonna have to postpone this so I can find some. I know I have some cutting wheels floating around this garage somewhere, but the issue that I'm running into is my oil cooler is taller than I thought with the IN lines. But I just rewatched LZ's video, and they notched the crash beam, because I don't want to get rid of the crash beam, but they notched the crash beam to allow the cooler to sit up higher and mount up higher. So I'll show you guys here. I unbolted the crash beam. This is where it bolts up to, and basically right below there is where I want the oil cooler to sit. So if I were to, theoretically, if I were to cut the crash beam up, basically from like over here and then just over and leave the top half on this section, I think it ends like right here, I would just have to cut it below the top bolt line. So it wouldn't bolt on the lowers, but I'll be able to still bolt it on this side, and it'll basically just be a thinner beam here, and then just go back to the full size crash beam all across the front of the car. All right, so crash beam notched out right below this little piece right here. Just use a Sawzall, cut straight down here, a little 90. So let's flip this guy, butt it up against there. Still hanging a little too low for my liking. These AN 90s are huge. Still hanging a little low for my liking. So next approach, I think, will be to try and get it where I don't know. All right, this thing has kicked my ass. I have two self tappers just kind of holding it in place, and what I'm going to do right now is put the bumper on and see if this location will even work. And that won't work at all. Location looks cool, but it's hitting right here. That is a big old no-go, because even if I trim this back here, it will not clear whatsoever. So I'm gonna have to figure out a way to mount it back further. So I'm jumping ahead, guys. I decided to scratch this idea, and I'm moving on to a different mounting location that will it'll mount the oil cooler directly to the crash beam, and it'll bring it closer to the bumper, and less fins of the oil cooler will ultimately be blocked by the opening in the bumper. So it won't sit up as high, it'll sit lower. The AN lines will be on the top side, and it'll just be a lot better. So I have these stainless steel 90-degree brackets that I had laying around the garage, and I'm just running some self tappers in to get these guys secured to the crash beam. I marked out where they need to be, and then once I get this one in, I'll rehang the crash beam on the car, and then I will bolt the oil cooler to it and see where everything lines up. So this is where we're looking now. Like I said, I'm gonna get a lot more airflow through this, because instead of sitting like up here on this side of on the top side of the crash beam, we're sitting on the lower side, and it's pretty much level with the rad support and all that. If anything, it sits a hair higher, so I'm not really worried about it hitting the ground or anything like that. But now I'm gonna hang the bumper and see where it falls. Location behind the bumper is pretty good, and you can see it more now, which I like the way that looks. It touches the bumper, like the bottom side. There's like actually that's gonna bend fins. There's a piece right here that is touching when the bumper's pushed in all the way. So I'll cut that piece off the bumper, but otherwise it clears. So it is directly in the path of air coming through the bumper, instead of not really in the pathway at all. The lines I will tuck up and out of the way, and then power steering cooler is still down there. That gets a pretty good line of air. With the oil cooler moved now and that old piece of ducting, my next thing is going to be making some side ducting. Now that the fog lights aren't in there either, but I'm going to make some side ducting to kind of like create a channel, and then redo that top piece to have a channel that air will come in and go up. And I still plan on doing a like 8-inch fan on the oil cooler on the backside for when I'm sitting on grid. I could just kick it on and make sure that I have you know, a steady airflow of air coming through that oil cooler specifically. So I'm gonna save the ducting work for the next video, because like I said, we're on quarantine, so I gotta keep finding things to do around the garage without even, you know, leaving the house. So we'll make some ducting on Tuesday, or wow, I don't even know why I said Tuesday. We'll make some ducting for the next video. We'll see what the weather looks like, because today sucked. It's wet and cold, and I just want to go inside now. But now the oil cooler is relocated, it's in a much better position for airflow, gets it away from the rad, and we'll have cooler, happier oil in the VR4 engine. So guys, remember to subscribe to the channel. Remember to like this video, and you know the deal. I'll see you guys next time.